Hi, my name is Sarah, and this video is called An Introduction to Finding and Using News Databases. At the FIMS Grad Library, we often get questions about where to find news databases and how to search them. So we've made a series of short videos to help FIMS grad students from all programs navigate these databases. Whether you're an MMJC student doing a research project on the evolution of news coverage on a certain topic, or an MLIS student looking for current articles on topics like banned books or drag queen story times, there are great news databases available to help you find the news coverage that you're looking for. In this first video in the series, we'll go over some of the basics about what news databases are most useful for, key considerations in choosing news databases, which news databases are available through Western libraries, where to find them, and some general tips on using them effectively for your research. If you're looking for information specific to one of these databases, look for the other short videos in this series that focus on particular databases like PressReader and Nexus Uni. So what are news databases good for? The FIMS graduate community uses news databases for a variety of different purposes. Depending on what you're working on, they can be useful for finding local, national, and international news sources, for comprehensively searching the archive of a particular news source like the New York Times or the Globe and Mail, for casting a wide net and searching many news sources at once, for finding historical news articles dating back, say, to the 19th century, for searching for more specialized and less mainstream news coverage, such as articles from independent and alternative news sources that may be a little harder to find, and for those of you who like browsing current news sources in the format they were printed in, some databases can be good for this as well. So as you can see, news databases are versatile and can be used in many different ways. Because there is such a range in what news databases include and the type of coverage they offer, you'll save yourself time if you have a sense of the scope and focus of different databases, so you can choose the best database for your purpose. To help you choose which database will be most useful for you, first consider, are you looking for historical news coverage or more current coverage? Are you looking for Canadian news sources, sources from a particular region, or international news sources? Do you need full text access to the news article, or is just having a citation sufficient? Are you hoping to search within particular news sources or many news sources at once? And finally, does your research require you to find mainstream news sources like the New York Times or the Guardian, or materials from smaller, more specialized or independent news sources? Once you've answered these questions and narrowed down the type of news database that you're looking for, you can use our chart to select the most appropriate databases for your search. Please note that this chart does not provide a comprehensive list of the news databases available, but it should provide you with examples of the most useful news databases available to FIMS students. So if you're not looking for anything too particular and would like to search within multi-purpose databases that provide coverage of a wide range of local, national, and international newspapers, then Factiva and Nexus Uni are likely to be your best bets. Note that we've created a short video on using Nexus Uni. If you're looking for strictly Canadian news sources, CPIQ Canadian Periodicals will be a useful source with its coverage of over 1,300 Canadian periodicals, including newspapers and other types of sources. If you're looking for harder to find alternative or independent news sources, Alt Press Watch, Gender Watch, and Ethnic News Watch are great options that should provide you with news articles from a diverse range of perspectives and communities. If you're interested in browsing through current newspapers and you like the experience of accessing newspapers in their print formats, then PressReader will be a great option for you. And if you haven't used PressReader before, please check out our video on using PressReader to pick up some tips on how best to navigate that database. Finally, there are a number of databases to choose from if you're looking for historical news coverage. ProQuest Historical Newspapers contains full text and full image articles for newspapers like the Globe and Mail and the New York Times dating back to the 19th century. You can choose to search all of these archives at once or one newspaper's archive at a time. Beyond this, there are other options for single archives like the Times Digital Archive. So now that you have a sense of which databases you may want to consult, where do you find them? Well, if you go to the Western Library's homepage and you click on Research Tools and then Databases from the menu, this brings you to the A to Z list of all of the library's databases. So for example, if I click on F, Factiva is the first database that comes up. Another great place to look for ideas of databases and other sources is under the Research Tools and then Research Guides. So I'll click on that. And then in the search bar on the right, I'm going to click on News Sources, or I'm going to type in News Sources, because there's actually a whole research guide on news sources. And here you can see there is, for example, information, a list of contemporary news articles, so all of the databases for contemporary news articles. And then there's also historical news articles and a list of great databases on historical news articles. So that's another really great place to look for that information. In many ways, conducting searches with news databases is similar to other database searches that you may have done. And if you don't have experience using databases at all, you may want to check out one of our videos that goes over database basics, like our video on the database Communication and Mass Media Complete. So for instance, when using news databases, it will be useful to know how to use Boolean language and how to create a search string, just like with other databases. However, there are some differences to be aware of when using news databases. So a few tips to keep in mind when using databases are first to get a sense of the database's layout and features. Not all databases are designed the same, and I find this particularly true of news databases, which can have very different features and functions. So take some time to learn about how the database is organized and what type of search functions it has. So for example, I'm looking at Factiva right now, which is useful for browsing through current news articles from major international newspapers, but it's also useful for conducting advanced searches. So being aware of these different functions is really important. And for this reason, you'll want to find the database's help function. Using this will save you time in creating your search, and it will ensure that you're using the database features correctly so that you can get the best results possible. The next thing I want to emphasize is how important language is and choosing the right keywords and search terms. If you're searching for coverage on a particular topic or event, but are not sure of what language has been used to discuss it, your search results are not likely to be as good as you'd like. This is particularly true when you're looking at historical news sources or international news coverage that may use language that you may not be as familiar with. For this reason, it may be necessary to do some research on language around topics or events before conducting your search. The final tip is to choose your limiters and search fields carefully. It's always important to be aware of your limiters when you're using databases, but they tend to be particularly important for researchers working with news sources. If you need to find news articles from a particular publication, time period, or geographical area, then you'll want to be careful that these limiters have been set properly. Similarly, the search fields in news databases can be a little different than those used in databases specializing in academic articles. So for example, here I am looking in ProQuest historical newspapers, and when I look at the search fields, I see that there's some options that you don't normally see with databases specializing in academic articles, like dateline, page, and section. So being aware of these will definitely help you with your search. I hope this video provided you with some useful tips on finding and using news databases. At the FIMS Graduate Library, we're always happy to set up in-person or virtual research appointments with FIMS graduate students. In an appointment, we can help you identify the best databases for your work, navigate databases, and develop effective search strings. You're also welcome to pop into the library to ask questions anytime. Also, as I mentioned earlier, if you're looking for help navigating a particular news database, check out the other videos in this series on using PressReader and Nexus Uni.